Okay. And we're live.
Wonderful.
Now the question will be, are we actually live or is it just showing that we're live on screen?
Well, let's see.
Welcome in. Welcome in. All right, we've got some people coming in, so that's a good sign. That means something's working.
Okay.
We're live.
It's not my hair follicles. It's not my hair follicles. They're not working, but apparently.
They're working for you. It's a good look.
Work here. It's not here.
Yeah. All right, everybody. Thank you for coming in. We're going to wait a couple of minutes while other folks dial in, but we appreciate everybody who's punctual. We love that. As you guys are rolling in, share where you're dialing in from, city, state, name of your practice. Maybe if you have any RCM billing related questions, throw them in there and we'll get to them when we begin in earnest. But we appreciate you being here. My name is Steve Alexander. I'm Vice President of Industry and Strategic Partnerships at Anagram. I'm based in Chicago. Shane?
Yeah, my name is Shane Shepard. I'm not in Chicago. You might can hear that from my accent. I live in Austin, Texas. Yeah, grew up in Louisiana. And it's a pleasure to be here with y'all tonight. Thank you so much for taking time out of your day. It's the busy season. All of y'all are busy. And I appreciate you taking a little time out of your day. We hope to make this conversation tonight very applicable and worthy of your time and give you something to take back to your practice and hopefully demonstrate some competency in our knowledge of billing. So, yeah, very, very thankful that you're here with us.
Awesome. Yeah, reiterate that. Thank you guys for being here. And if the accent didn't tell you, the might could probably did.
To have a little talk here.
That's right. I'm gonna put it through my Chicago filter, but it all makes sense.
Yes.
Looks like we've got some people in from Texas, from Minnesota, from Alabama, from Central Park, from I'm gonna spell it out, Ohio. We got people from all over.
State University.
The Ohio State University.
I don't want to see that.
Shout out to Liam, who's probably listening, who's a big fan.
Yeah.
I hear he's got a big bet going on a coming Ohio State game.
For anybody who would care to know, I live in Austin, and so big Longhorn fan. And one of our coworkers is coming down for this game. Thank you. That's right. Okay. And we have a little running bet about a particular tattoo if the Longhorns were to win. But we'll see. We'll see if Liam is up for that.
We'll see. But again, thank you guys for being here. It's 3 minutes after the scheduled time, so we can go ahead and get started. The idea for this session is to discuss Anagram's new RCM platform. Now, we've been doing RCM in earnest for a little over 2 years now. Shane, just as a brief overview, a little bit about your history in RCM, how you ended up in Anagram, and what we've been building.
Yeah, well, thank you. I'll give you the Cliff Notes version. So, because at the end of the day, people want to know how we can help their lives. But I appreciate the chance to discuss it. And so, man, I when I got out of school, I went to work at a health insurance company. So I cut my teeth on the other side of this equation, and so I worked there for about 6 years. And I knew nothing about optometry. I knew squat about optometry, but I knew nothing about insurance. Honestly, I got this job and worked my way up through the ranks and learned all the aspects from policy administration side, from underwriting from the mailroom to underwriting to submission and payments and underwriting, all that kind of stuff. And so I did that for a number of years. And long story short, I got sideways with an employer and left. And a couple of days later, I had stumbled into a job as a biller at an optometry office. Some dear friends of mine, the McCormicks. And it gave me the domain experience. So I ended up managing a practice for about 11 years. So then I was on the other side of this equation. It's not esoteric and abstract to me. I lived it. And so it's, I think that's one of the strengths of the businesses, honestly, is our offering is that it's not just a process. I understand kind of the pain points that people go through. And so then we built an offering around that. So after managing this business for a number of years and being able to have some positive effect on practices, started a business. It became turned into one of the offerings that's well known in this industry. But things happen, and every time you do something, you do it a little better. So I ended up leaving when the major players in the industry acquired my business. I didn't feel like I could control the quality of what the service was being delivered, and so I took a shot and I left. And I've been blessed to be here at Anagram and be around people who are invested in the process and the software, and that was key for wherever my next step was. And to be able to look people in the eye and tell them, we're delivering the thing that you're buying, right? And so that's been a blessing to have the support of the company. It's not an ancillary service to Anagram. This is a service that is very, very meaningful and impactful, and they dedicate the resources to it. And that's it's been a wonderful ride, and I'm blessed to be here and doing it.
Well, Anagram is in year 13 of operation. When we started, we only did a small subset of the stuff that we do now. But at every step of the way, our goal was to improve and make what we do better for our customers. We're a SaaS company, a software as a service company, but emphasis on the service. We know the things that we put out make the lives of our customers and the people that they take care of better and easier. So it's important for us to have the kind of hard-won expertise that you bring to the table. So we're very fortunate to have you. I appreciate it.
Too kind. Thank you, Steve.
It was my pleasure.
Blessing to be here. Let's talk about some things that help the audience get paid.
Yeah.
For do. Yeah.
Absolutely right. So in a preamble to that, I'm going to posit a question to the audience. Those of you who are not yet doing medical billing in your practice, what's stopping you? Please answer in the chat. Write down the biggest obstacles that you think you're facing that's keeping you from doing more of that. And while the audience is doing that, Shane, tell me a little bit about the process.
Yeah. Well, let me help you with where most of these answers are going to be. Yeah. If you don't do this right, if you don't pull the benefits and understand what the liability, patient responsibility is going to be, then there is a fear about it negatively affecting retention rates. You don't want to go to the doctor for an event that you think the cause. This is just a universal, right? And get a bill after the fact, right? And so if you do get a bill after the fact, get a bill during the fact. If someone educates you about your decisions and helps you make an educated decision, well, that's one thing, right? But if medical billing, if you go to an event that you believe is going to be a preventative service that is refractive in nature, not necessarily, but that's what you believe, and then it turns into another bill, that's going to negatively affect retention rates, right? And so then if you do it right, man, it adds value to the practice. Why would you go somewhere else? You're getting the health that you need. You're getting the correction that you need, right? You're utilizing your benefits to their full extent. You're paying a big premium. You want your benefits used. If you can do all of those things, meet your standard of care, and provide that excellent service, then why would somebody go somewhere else? But you got to do it right. If you don't do it right, it's going to end up. So that I would say that's probably a big point, a big part of what we're about to hear. That leads.
I got one that you haven't predicted, but okay. I bet you'll agree with this one. from audience member Pam. Medicare is a pain.
Yeah, Medicare is a pain. But I will say this, Medicare defines their rules, right? And that is an obstacle for a lot of individuals is they go, okay, well, what are the rules? Am I going to make a mistake? There's some analysis paralysis. And, you'd like to think the standard of care is the standard of care. People are going to do the things they need to do. But optometrists are also people. Newsflash. And so then the normal things that affect normal people affect optometrists too. And so, you need to have a good set of information so that they can make the right decisions and the patients can make informed decisions. And you do that, and then you've got a thriving medical as wing of your business, So, anywho, a little passionate about this. Sorry if I go off the rails there.
But that's the thing, like that's actually what it takes to get good at something like this. I think you mentioned optometrists are people, right? They're whole people who have whole lives and often whole businesses to run, and their whole attention is not on this process. And the way you described your onboarding, right? The way you became an expert at this, it was hard, dedicated years of understanding where like optometrists by and large don't have the time to commit in addition to everything else that they're doing. So part of our goal here is obviously to acknowledge what ODs and practices are doing and the value that they provide, and to hopefully give education that makes it a little bit easier for you to be more successful dealing with insurances in your practice. So we're going to talk about Anagram stuff. We're going to talk about what we've built, and we're going to talk about why it matters. But please take this time and ask questions that are outside of that. Like if you have a billing question, Shane, and we love to play Stump Shane. Ask the hardest billing question you have and watch him sweat. It's so great.
Yeah, well, I love it. No one knows anything, knows everything. And that's how you know if someone's BSing you, if they tell you they know everything.
That's right.
Guaranteed there are people in this audience that know things about particular payers that I have not been exposed to, right? Nobody knows everything. And so that's part of the beauty of working with people is that, the more you are connecting with people, then kind of feeding each other and each other's knowledge, base of knowledge. But anywho, yeah. So I would say the first place you start here is with benefits, and optometrists have a unique situation where there's an inflection point. There's a point here that optometrists have to navigate that the other verticals in healthcare don't necessarily have to, and that is you have two different streams of revenue. You have two different potential payers. And you have managed vision care, and then you have actual health insurance. And so in a perfect world, when someone presents, what are they presenting for 90+% of the time? They're presenting for blurry vision. And sometimes the reason for that blurry vision is refractive error. And sometimes the reason for that error, that blurry vision, is corneal edema. Right? These are two different things. There's two different problems. And there's an assumption by the patient that it is X when it could be Y and will be Y in a certain number of cases. And so to be properly, then you had to solicit the correct chief complaint. If they come in for an eye exam, then it's an eye exam. But the reason most people are coming in for an eye exam is blurry vision. Right? And blurry vision can be a number of things. And so when that comes in, you want to be prepared for whatever may occur. And if it is a routine, I know that's a dirty word, but it's a preventative exam, then you want to be prepared for that and have those benefits pulled. And in a perfect world, you'd have the benefits pulled on the medical side of this. People would if for optometrists, if they're rendering services and billing a managed vision care payer and not pulling benefits, they would not expect very good results, right? They would go, oh, okay, well, sometimes they're not going to have the benefits. Sometimes maybe I'm not in network with it, XYZ. right? It would be a little silly for people to not pull the benefits and expect the process to work well.
Right.
Right. Right. But that is exactly what happens on the medical side of it. Right. People don't prepare for that. And then it comes time, everybody's scrambling, people don't have information, they don't make decisions, or it turns out that there's not a covered benefit, things of that nature. And so obtaining the correct benefits, both medical and vision, ahead of time is best practices. You want to have all the information. That is kind of where you start in this process so that the rest of this works well.
So there are, I think, like two main reasons, I guess, that practices don't pull medical benefits ahead of time. One is they don't know that they ought to, even if a patient is coming in for refractive error, potential refractive error. So they don't know that they should, or they don't, and maybe there's three reasons. They don't know that they should, or they don't have enough information to pull those benefits because they didn't capture the patient's medical insurance. So they don't have a record of it. So they can't go and look it up. And I want to pause, and I'd like to get your take on this, that the third reason is they don't want to deal with the friction that comes with submitting what the patient thinks is a regular eye exam to medical.
Yeah, I do think that is, from a staff's perspective, you're introducing error. You're in, however you want to think about it, it is a complication to the process. And so from a staff's perspective, if things are going well, then they may go, well, why do we want to introduce this error? Right. But it is there are events occurring in most of these practices. They're not getting billed. Right. They're performing the standard of care. Right? They're going to do the things they need to do.
Right.
But how many times do they do a thing and then not bill for it because they're not prepared for it, that they don't want to cause this, right? And that's not what they should do. But I'm not here to talk about fairyland. I'm here to talk about what really happens. And so then things get, a lash gets pulled, a picture gets taken, whatever it is, and then they're not billing the patient necessarily. And yeah, it causes that if you're not prepared for it, it causes friction within the practice. Now you have people calling in upset because they got bills they weren't, right? And so there's this negative feedback loop that occurs from this. And it can all be overcome by prepping for the event properly. And then you eliminate all the stress and anxiety and lack of decision making because of lack of information. And you kind of teach in business school, the cost of quality. You spend a little bit more up front, and then the rest of this process flows smoother and ultimately less expensive. Yeah.
And I think it's exactly like what you said a moment ago. It's like you wouldn't expect to see a patient with vision benefits without having pulled their benefits ahead of time. You know that most of your patients, if not all of your patients who have a vision benefit, also have a medical benefit. And you also know that a lot of things that manifest in the eye are medically oriented and not visually oriented necessarily. So, just prepare for what might occur, be confident in how you present it, and that friction will go away. And it's a silly example, but it's the same thing when I was a practicing optician. If I didn't tell a patient that transitions don't darken when you're in the car, or don't darken much when you're in the car, the patient's going to be mad at me the first time they go driving in their cool new glasses. And rightly so, because I didn't set them up for success. I didn't help them understand what was going to happen. If instead you tell them the truth up front and let the patient make an informed decision, you're not going to run into that problem.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, it's you prep you give your patients information, and they make decisions about their care. As the provider,
Absolutely.
you provide that information, tell them your recommendation, they make their decision. So
That's right. Shane, we got a couple of questions from the audience, and I think one is right up your alley. So I'm going to show it to you from Dr. Gardner out of Alabama. Does Anagram have a method of quickly and accurately pulling medical insurance benefits like what y'all have for vision benefits plans?
Yeah.
Apologies for saying y'all in my Chicago accent, but it is what it says there.
So no. That's it. We're going to get you to saying y'all and fixing. So yes, we are working on it. Honestly, this is a perfect question. Thank you. So having described all of this, we've gone as a company and tried to address this. What I've stressed to our company is we don't want to regurgitate information that's not useful. My personal take is that some things that have been in the industry in regards to medical benefits have been kind of nice and shiny, but not particularly useful. Right? There's if the policy is active, whether there's a deductible, whether there's pre-existing conditions, right? That's one set of benefits. But is there a preventative eye exam on the health insurance? When you have an office visit, does the copay apply? Diagnostic testing, does the copay apply? Surgical, laboratory, all of these things have different sets of benefits, right? You have a policy that has a deductible. Preventative services don't normally apply to deductible. They're preventative services, right? So we need to identify when there is a preventative eye exam on the health insurance policy, and along with whether the policy is active. We need to tell you whether an office visit is you have a specialist office visit, whether diagnostic testing is subject to deductible, all these things that are necessary for you to have a thriving practice and not negatively affect retention rates. And so we are in a beta to do that. We could honestly take information from the payer and just spit it back at you. And you may, at first blush, may first pass think, okay, well, but is it going to actually help your practice? And so we're working hard to make sure that we kind of distill that information down to information that's actually applicable to you. If you pull a preventative service, you do not need to know whether they have some other preventative service. I won't say various things. You need to know whether they have a preventative eye exam, a routine eye exam. So anyway, so we're working on that. And I think in the fourth quarter of this year, you'll probably see something in the market, and Lord willing, it'll be very applicable to what you do and help you navigate some of these issues when it comes time to have those.
All of that knowledge, all of the experience that you have and our billing team has informed what we show in the medical eligibility software. So we are, like Shane said, running a beta. We have some customers currently testing it out and giving us their feedback for how we improve it. But the idea is to show only the information that is necessary and informative for the actions you can take next. To your point, a lot of the medical benefits that you get today, that you can get today, is just direct from what the clearinghouse gets. And it can be pages and pages of irrelevant information, of noisy information, of stuff that's difficult to parse. So the challenge for us is in digitally parsing that information to give you the right knowledge to do what you need to do so you can better take care of your patients.
Yeah, amen. If Steve, if you gave me a book and it was written in Chinese, it would be all the information.
That's right. Yeah.
Right? But it would be useless information. And, the way that the information is pushed back to their member, the providers are members of their network. These are supposed to be their partners. Right. And so then they push information to our clients and their members and their provider network that they can't understand. Yeah.
You would think like something behaving like that, they're not really partners in some ways.
Yeah, you think? Yeah. So they may have an ulterior motive, and that's to introduce error, right? And so people like me have made a career out of navigating, navigating these waters, understanding their rules. There are rules out there. We had a kind of listener mention Medicare is a pain. Medicare it is a pain. They have LCDs and NCDs, tells you where diagnosis codes, and they may be silly and not something that their membership agrees with, the providers agree with, but there are rules out there. Right. And so then it's up to people to interpret those rules and apply those rules and navigate the error that's introduced. And so that kind of takes us, I'll segue there, Steve, from benefit acquisition to submission. Right. And so
before you do, because I think that's good. We've got a couple of questions that I want to make sure that don't get lost in the conversation. I want to make sure that this is interactive. So Maria Bontrager says, what's the difference between a copay and a co-insurance? I'll let you chew on that question for a second, Shane. Dr. Gardner, anybody else in the audience, if you're an existing Anagram customer and you'd like to participate in the medical eligibility beta, please let us know. We'll add you to the list. I can't guarantee that we'll open the beta up, but it's better for us to know that you're interested. And if the opportunity arises to call you into it, than to not know that you're interested. So please do raise your hands if that's something you'd like to participate in. Sorry, Shane, go right ahead.
Oh, it's very near and dear. I think it's a game changer for people. We get this right. It will help their practices exponentially. So you're very passionate about it and love other people who are very passionate about it to be involved. Difference between copay and co-insurance. Great question. Copay and co-insurance, copay flat fee, right? So $20, $30, you could have $1 million charge. Copay is a flat fee. Co-insurance is a percentage of the allowed amount. And it's a extremely common error in our industry to not collect the correct amount from the patient at the time of service. Best practice is collect at the time of service, right? I think I'm going to operate off that premise. And so if you're collecting at the time of service, then a co-insurance is a percentage of the allowed amount. So let's say for any given service, you're charging $100 and Medicare is a 20% co-insurance. So that's $20. But now you process that claim and let's say the allowed amount is, I don't know, $80 instead of $100. So you're obligated to collect 20% of the 80, not 20% of the 100. And the only way for you to correctly do that is to build your Medicare fee schedules into your system, or I would submit to you kind of a more rudimentary way would be have a book, right? But if for the people who have the practice management systems, you build that fee schedule, the Medicare fee schedule, and that is also big about co-insurance rather than copays on diagnostic testing. So if you build those fee schedules, in the example I gave you, the $80, you build that into your system so that when you pull down Medicare, it changes the fee to $80, the contracted amount. Your aging won't be inflated, right? So when the financially responsible parties look at their outstanding aging, they'll have a truer picture of what they actually have due to them. And then you're not collecting the wrong amount. So if you're collecting 20 instead of the 16, now you've got to do a $4 refund. And it's not a question whether you have to do it. Right. So that introduces more labor and goes back to the cost of quality. If you do these things properly up front, if you entered in your Medicare fee schedule into your system up front, one time, once a year, takes you an hour, the rest of the year, you don't have that error. Right? You don't have refunds being generated. You're not charging people the wrong amount. And so, yeah, difference between
awesome.
Sorry.
I appreciate that, Shane. Now, you guys, you can hear Shane's passion on this topic, and we could talk about kind of the specifics of what it's like, why you would enter your fee schedules, how long it takes, how frequently you have to do it, all of that stuff. That's not the topic of this session, but a great way to make it the topic of a session is to ask questions about it. So please, if there's something that you guys are interested in, shoot me an email at steve@goanagram.com. Put it in the form as you're registering for these webinars. Subscribe to our calendar. We do these events twice a month, so you can always participate, and we would very much like your participation. I have one more quick question from the audience. It is, does Anagram integrate with a scheduling system such as Tab or Crystal PM for pulling those benefits? And in the interest of time, I will say it is something that we are currently working on, but is not yet available. But stay tuned. It is something that we will be discussing in short order. Now, Shane, the purpose of this session is to go over some of the phenomenal software that we've built into our platform. And I think one of the best places to begin is what I cut you off from doing earlier, and my apologies for that, is on the claim submission bit. So let's assume you've got all the right information. How do you know that your claim is ready to go?
Yeah, so that's where we're talking about the benefits and the individual. That's an inflection point. That's a point of where this can go extremely right or extremely wrong, right? And so the staff in the doctor, they're going to route that information to the front desk. They're going to create an invoice and allocate the balances to the proper insurance, right? And so that is outside of our service, and I want to talk about our service. But there's a point right there where the staff determines where this is going, right? And I say the staff, the doctor communicates to the staff, and they create the invoice. We take that data, and then we're going to do a number of things to reduce error and get our clients paid. And so we'll scrub our claims. We'll take the data out of their system. They create an invoice. And then from there, our team's going to take it. So we remote into these practices or log into these practices if they're client server-based systems. And then we'll extract the data and we'll submit the data. We provide the clearinghouse for our clients. So anybody who is using TriZetto or any other clearinghouse, we'll replace that clearinghouse, give you access to it, and take that bill. And it's a good from a business standpoint. People don't understand clearinghouses necessarily, wonder why it's necessary to have that in a billing service. And so, one, we provide it, but two, if I provide it, then I'm responsible for setting it up and making sure that the data is flowing properly. That's a big thing with clearinghouses that other billing services, in my opinion, fall short of. If you do not set this piece of software up well, then it doesn't work well, right? And if you put that onus on the clients, then this is not, their sweet spot. It's our sweet spot. So we provide that clearinghouse. We set it up and configure it. We do these things called enrollments. Enrollments are necessary for the data to flow properly. And so we own that. We provide the clearinghouse, and we own that enrollment process, which is a pain, but it makes the data sound. And so from there, we will upload your claims data from your practice management system. You record an invoice, and we put it into our system and drop it into a scrubber. A lot of billing services, kind of smaller billing services that are really good, solid businesses, they can't scale, right? And one of the reasons why they can't scale is because how many competent billing people can you find to satisfy the need? And so, for us to build scalable processes, we've taken this information and built it in to what we use and call the scrubber. And Steve, if you wouldn't mind, can you show my screen? Is it something?
Let's do it. Ooh, it's an infinite recursion. It's us everywhere.
Oh, well, we don't want that. Let me see if I can try it. Let me switch screens. I think you got it. You might want to hold on there.
All right, we'll hold on there.
Okay.
We've got some folks in the audience interested in the beta. Hopefully, we've got some Anagram angels paying attention and adding them to lists. I'm hoping so. But thank you guys again for participating. Thank you for your questions. And before, actually, it's a good opportunity. I have another question to ask. For those of you that are already doing some medical billing, what do you think is preventing you from doing more? And I'll leave that on screen while we
give it another
go to Shane. Go to Shane's screen.
Give it another go. Is it on the correct screen now?
Yeah, we're good. We got it.
All right.
Just two of us now.
Okay, beautiful. So the scrubber, we will import what's called an 837. All of your practice management systems, the vast majority of them, will produce what's called an 837 standardized claim format. I'm gonna be a little nerdy, and excuse my nerdiness. So we export that 837, push it into our tool. Everything that we have, I am very proud to say we built. Our developers and software engineers built this. We have a team of software developers that are constantly working on this product, and they make it better and better. And so as I and my team come up with things, it gets developed rapidly. But so the claim scrubber, this is where we take your claims data and we can push it into this tool, and it will take all the rules that we've learned over the course of time in our career and apply them to the claims. And so, like I tell you, that Medicare has a set of rules, or the LCDs and NCDs. These are built into the system. So as claims come in, if a diagnosis code is not specific enough, if there's a modifier, things of that nature, the software catches that and holds it out, right? If we can identify the error prior to submission, fixing a rejection is easier than fixing a denial, and shortens the cycle, right? So this is our scrubber. This is a kind of sandbox with made up data. But from here, you can see these are errors. The ones that go through is connected to the clearinghouse and goes through. The ones that do not, the rules are here for my team to go through and identify what rule it was. These are rules, for example, in this one that was skipped. These are rules that were applicable. The ones that fail, my team will go through and correct, and in a number of different ways. They can go back to the system. They can correct here. They can go to the clearinghouse. And so this is the scrubber. This is the kind of the mustard seed. This is the beginning of the process, right? And so we can customize this down to payer, procedure, and provider even. So if there is something for one of our clients that needs to be customized, we can absorb that data and amend it when applicable, when it's legitimate to do so. We can amend the data and push it out. So we can get there to certain modifiers where it would be fine laterality, for example. Other things, then there are other things that can't, that have to go back to the provider. But so that's our claim scrubber. That's the beginning of this process, right? There will be claims that need to be manually submitted, and we go submit those. But we submit everything we possibly can, and that goes back to the clearinghouse setup, so that we can submit them electronically, because that data is just easier to control, right? And at the beginning, you're kind of at the end of the day, we're controlling data back and forth to the payer and back to the provider. And so electronic data is easier. So that's our claim scrubber. Steve, before I move on to the next attribute, any questions about that?
We do actually, from Dr. Gardner. Is AI somehow built into this scrubber or the platform to assist the humans working these claims?
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Gardner. There is, we leverage AI, I would say, that's just technology, to enable our software engineers. So, I am an insurance nerd. I'm not, a software developer and engineer, but working closely with them, they use that technology to assist in their coding, but it doesn't replace the logic of a human. And so they have to navigate and utilize that technology in a way that makes sense. And it does speed up development. it does make things easier, but it does not eliminate the need for a human to give it data and interpret the data and work it. And so I would think if you applied that to ChatGPT or any other AI service, that you can challenge it and ask it questions that you have deep knowledge of, and it's quick to find you. If you it's not a subject that you have intimate knowledge of, then you see the error. And so that's the case with AI and development. They have to oversee it carefully, utilize it, but not overly depend on it.
Yeah, got it. So before we get to the next bit of software, Wade Rittenhouse commented on the question that I asked a little bit earlier about what's stopping you from doing more medical billing. I thought really interesting answer. He's suffering from a doctor shortage.
Yeah, right. That's absolutely. And I would submit to you that that if you pull all of this information ahead of time, then the process doesn't shut down. You know, you have a stream of patients that are booked, and if an event occurs, like personally, when I go to my personal, doctor, I go and they said, when do you want? I was, first one in the morning, first one in the afternoon. Either way, right? Because the day is filled with issues, and then they manifest at the end of the schedules. And so, if someone, again, this is you're going to do the things you need to do, right? But doctors are people, and let's say that someone has pressures of 18 and 22. There's a difference of 4, one's above a 20, and you could talk to the patient. You could have them come back for any test that you deemed medically necessary, or you could do it then. If you have that information, then you can make this event occur that is medically necessary, and talk to the patient about it, give them the option, and it doesn't bog down the rest of the day. You don't want people at 4 o'clock to be bumped considerably.
Right.
Having that information ahead of time helps. Yeah.
Fantastic. I've got a question from the audience that I think might change the order in which we do things, but hopefully you can pivot with me. Shane, can you get the inquiry tool ready, and I'll bring the question up and read it.
Yeah.
So Dr. Haywood out of, I believe, North Carolina has a question. Say a diagnosis code is wrongly used. Do you change it to a diagnosis that is correct? How can you do that without consulting the provider who provides the services? Yeah, I think it's a really important question.
It is. And well, one, the communication back and forth to the offices is absolutely one of the things that is a bottleneck and a touch point for clients of billing services. And how well they navigate that particular issue has a lot to do with if the business is successful. You know, you're trying to reduce burden and increase revenue. If every error that is introduced is pushed back to the office, then you haven't reduced their burden. You know, you're just organizing data and pushing it back to them. So there are issues that can be solved where we don't have to burden the practice. And so let's say that we get a demographic issue, member not found, things of that nature. Then we can solve those. We can go back into your system, see if you transposed a policy number, things of that nature, right? And so, but to your point, and very well made, is that because the diagnosis is present doesn't mean it's the reason that XYZ was performed. And so there are cases there where, like, if things are overlapping, where it wouldn't be inappropriate. You know, let's say that you put you have bilateral procedure, but you put a diagnosis that is only indicating a left laterality and OU. Well, then that would be okay. right? You did a procedure that's bilateral and OU's there and you pointed to the right one. So, but then there are others where, like, say, diagnosis where an office visit needs a modifier to be separate and distinct if it was indeed separate and distinct. That is not something that we could do and add to and randomly point, like, into your point, Doc, right? If something is changing the benefit type. So you build it to preventative, but there's a diagnosis of medical, that's going to hit a different benefit type if I point to it. But if you had a diagnosis of refractive error and I'm pointing to, an eye exam, preventative eye, then that doesn't change the benefit type. So there's some nuance to that. Absolutely.
So when that arises, sorry, Shane, when that arises in kind of day to day, how do we resolve it in our RCM service?
Yeah. So thank you. Throwing it over the plate. So that touch point, the inquiries, not asking unnecessary questions is a big thing for us. Because I know that is a weakness of some of our competition, quite frankly. And so we don't want to push questions that we can answer. I don't want a question to come back to our clients and they look up the answer and go, well, they could have done this. Then that defeats the purpose of having us. So we take that very seriously. But once there is a need and we identify a need to come back to the office, maybe a copy of the card wasn't scanned. We want the doctor to go back and review and see if there are applicable diagnosis codes that weren't indicated, things of that nature. Then we will push a question back to our clients through the software, call it inquiries. It operates much like a phone text. And so we will push the question back to our clients. They log into the software. They would respond much like they would a text. It comes back to our team and they answer it. Now, one of the issues with billing services is when questions go unanswered or a billing service is not living up to its obligations, how do you know if that's the case? And so that was the very first thing that we did when I came to Anagram. As I told the engineers that we need to address this issue before we go to market. We need to address this issue and have a good answer for people on how to do this. And so when we ask you a question, you've got a day to answer it. If you don't answer it, you're going to get an email that says 1 email per day, no matter how many questions there are, saying, don't forget to come into this application and address these questions. If you don't do it in 10 days, then the second level of the practice, so whoever is kind of the that next rung on the ladder, they're going to get an email telling them that's day 10 through day 20. And let's say that doesn't happen. Well, then the business owner is going to get an email and a list of the claims that we cannot submit because there's a lack of information. And the point here is to identify the error before it affects the ability to recover the income. And so we will push that up the ladder until we get to the financial decision maker within the timely filing deadlines of these payers so that it can be addressed and the claims can be solved. And so that's our way of dealing with that.
Awesome. Thanks, Shane. So I think there are, you guys are probably picking up on a theme. There are some sort of North Stars that we follow in what we're building, why we build it, and why it matters. And a lot of it is in, you heard Shane say it a couple of times, I think, what is it? Reducing administrative burden and helping you make more money.
For sure.
Right. So if you think about if you're currently outsourcing your billing, or if you have a biller on your team, if they're not helping you do those two things, revisit the process. Think about that process and where those things are falling off. Because if you find yourself doing more admin and also making less money, you're spinning your wheels, and that's not helping anybody.
Yep. Well, big surprise, Steve. I've rattled on, and we've got 10 minutes left. And
I've done my best, man.
Yeah. Yeah. So I hope that this is. We can go over another module here, or I can do it briefly. Whatever you tell me, Steve. But
Yeah, let's highlight one other module and how it relates in like one other piece of our software, how it relates to the practice, and then we can open the floor to some questions. So, and actually, let me ask one while you're pulling up the next thing, Shane. If you're already doing a lot of medical billing, what are the biggest obstacles you face in your day-to-day operations? It could be any number of things, but this is useful for us. So you guys, any answers that come through here are a favor to us, and we would really appreciate it.
Sure.
It's an opportunity for us to learn. What are you facing? What are you dealing with? And what can we do to help?
Absolutely. So, Steve, we'll let the audience answer that one, and I'll talk about the next thing. So,
yeah, let's go.
Okay. So, payment posting. Payment posting. That is the next step in this process. Reconciliation, right? Especially for our providers, when that it's labor intensive and it doesn't necessarily. Well, it may generate revenue from patients, so you can accurately bill your patients when you don't collect coinsurance or copays correctly. But this step is the step that is the first to break, right? Because if you have a limited amount of labor, you're going to pull the benefits, you're going to submit the claims, you're going to work your rejections and your denials, and we can talk about that. It's probably worthy of its own discussion. But the reconciliation of these payments back into the system is the first sign that you're overwhelmed from a labor standpoint, because it is considered the least impactful, right? You could keep going and just get the money in the bank and not post the payments. Right. But that is the next step, and then the point where you identify the next parts of the system. And so there are rejections. I discussed that in the claim scrubber. There's rejections there. But once you submit the claim and it gets accepted, it's going to produce a remit, and that comes back into our system as payment posting. And our team will go apply those payments back to our client system, take the contractual adjustments, transfer refunds and balances back to the patient. We do have payment exceptions here. It's something that we're proud of, and a little nuance that really tells you kind of our knowledge, I believe, of these systems. And so when you get negative series payments from a managed vision care payer, there's a refund, there's a credit, or there's a bill to be sent. Those go into our payment exceptions. And so our clients can go access the software and see the various things. And as they process the refunds back to the patient, they would hit archive and remove it off the list, and then they're good. And so you have payment posting, you have these exceptions. So I believe a well thought out workflow here. From the payments, there are going to be denials. That's its own discussion. We'll have that another way, but we parse all this payment information into a work queue for us to manage the denials. All the more reason for us to supply the clearinghouse. And an aging module, which is really QA, right? When you're working in an aging from your process, it is your way of identifying where the error occurred in the rest of this process. So whether it wasn't submitted correctly, whether rejection wasn't worked correctly, whether the denial wasn't worked correctly, whether the benefits weren't pulled correctly, working in aging is that QA. So those are the various aspects, kind of the meat and potatoes of our offering. There's other little things around reporting so that you can improve, but those are the main modules of our offering.
Awesome. Fantastic. We had a couple of answers to that question that came through, and I think they'll fit right into what we were talking about. So the question, as a reminder, was what are the obstacles keeping you from doing more billing, or what are the obstacles you face in your day-to-day operations? And a couple of the answers here: posting payments. Ooh, my light turned off. My apologies. Posting payments and sending out statements. So fits right in with what we're talking about. Obviously, a big logistical hurdle.
Yep.
And then this one was a little bit more detailed, and I think it kind of is really specific. So I'd love to get your insight on both of these, Shane, if you could, as we get closer to the end of our session here. So fixing rejected claims, and then recently fixing claims that are rejected for PCP referral required. It's just like an indication that there are constant challenges, constant hurdles to clear here, and really got to have folks who pay really close attention.
Amen. again, the process, right? I would say the strength of our service is that we've built a platform that allows for change. There's one thing that's going to happen. The rules are going to change, right? What diagnosis codes are applicable in the insurance company's eyes to meet the medical policies, what modifiers and codes and all of that stuff, they change over time. But what doesn't change over time is the process, right? And so the process is acquiring the benefits, scrubbing the claims, submitting the claims, working the rejections, working the denials, posting the payments, right? And then analyzing the data so you can reduce there. The process remains the same. And I would say that the strength of our offering is that we've built a process that allows for change. And so as things happen, that scrubber, I can identify rules and build it into it. As the denials, the prevalent denials in our industry change, I can build rules that allow for that. And so, that's a strength of our offering. I don't know if I answered your question though, Steve.
Well, you did. It's just like the obstacles that practices are facing, that practice managers are facing in dealing with this, and what's preventing this from, I think, flourishing more. You mentioned it at the outset of this session that eye care is really unique in that there are two different sets of benefit administrators to deal with, vision and medical. And I've been in the industry for 25 years. You've been in the industry for 7,000 years, something like that. And in that time, we've seen the scope of care change for optometrists, right? Even when I started a relatively short period of time ago, it was mostly like generalist OD stuff, mostly refractions. And, you had some glaucoma care, but not nearly what we're talking about today. The scope of care has gotten so much bigger and so much more complex.
Mm-hmm.
So the point you made about change is actually vital, right? To understand, what you're doing this year and what you're doing next year may not be the same, and having a partner who can change when stuff changes is, I think, invaluable. And that's true for me and outside of work, obviously. That's true. One of the reasons I really enjoy working at Anagram is we're built for the next thing.
Yeah, the flexibility and knowledge, and that is also a strength of ours. Is we're not trying to be anything to anybody else. We're an optometric billing service, and we know the rules of this particular vertical very well. And so then, there are billing services out there that focus on other things. There's enough nuance to optometric billing that they tend to not do so well when they're focused on other disciplines. And so, this is our bread and butter. We're not trying to go do something else. So.
We've got one last questions, then we can sign off from Dr. Gardner again. Can this work with all practice management softwares, or is there? Oh, there's more questions coming in. All right. Can this? And then please do keep them coming. Can this work with all practice management softwares, or is there a specific list of PM systems with which it integrates? It's a great question. We have a list of active softwares. If you'd like, if you're an existing Anagram customer, log into the app and just ask in the chat box, and our customer support team will route that question to the right person. If you're not already an Anagram customer, fill out a demo request form on the website. And I know it sounds pretty salesy, but know that our sales team is not pushy. Our team is devoted to understanding whether or not we're a good fit. Very happy to answer your questions before pushing for any kind of commitment. So we work with many of the PM systems, but not all of them. And I know there are an increasing number all the time. So please schedule some time with our team and have a conversation, and we'll certainly let you know if your iteration of your PM system is one that we can work with.
Thank you, Steve. And if I may add to that, it's about the functionality of the PM system rather than the name on it, right? And so can it do X, Y, Z that we need in order to be successful? And so the vast majority of practice management systems in our space we work with, and the ones that we don't, it doesn't preclude us from working with them. It just needs to have certain functionality. When that functionality is absent, people don't necessarily get great results, and then they associate that with our service rather than where the limitations of the system. And so we draw some hard lines there, but the vast majority of practice management systems we do work with.
It's actually those hard lines that I think it might be valuable to double click on. And I appreciate that we're at time, and I appreciate everybody for being here and all the great questions and the wonderful participation. Obviously, Shane, your knowledge and all of that invaluable stuff, genuinely. But the value of us drawing hard lines is that we set ourselves and our clients up for success. We know we can't be all things to all people. We know that we have to deliver a certain quality of product and service in order to keep our customers happy. And that's genuinely what we want. So we work really hard not to overstretch and not to overpromise, and make sure that the things we say we can deliver on. So please keep those questions coming, and we'll keep making our software better. I have one more question. It's about the beta test. And another customer interested in doing that. Is there a reduced fee for the service for the beta tester? We have what we call an introductory price for the beta customers. It is just a test to see, if where we think the pricing ought to go makes sense, and if it does what we think it does for your practice. So there's not a clean answer to that. The best I can do is sorta.
Yeah, I will go out on a little limb here, Steve, and just say a statement of fact. It is in our interest for our clients to have clean, good benefits, right? And so as we introduce this and people are RCM clients, it's in our best interest to make this as accessible to our clients as possible.
Fantastic. Fully agree. Everybody, thank you again for being here. Thank you for your questions. Shane, thanks for doing this with me. If you'd like to participate in the next one, please subscribe to our calendar on our events page or our YouTube channel, or follow us on LinkedIn or Facebook. We try to put out valuable content here as much as possible. Check out our podcast. It's Best Practices, published through Envision Magazine, also available on Spotify, Apple Music, wherever you get your podcasts. It will be more of me talking, so know that going in.
He's very humble. He's very good at what he does. So thank you, Steve, for leading me through this conversation. And you're wonderful at that. And anybody who wants to have a discussion, that's what I'm here for. This is kind of my life's work. So happy to have those. And thank you for your time tonight.
Thanks, everybody. Have a great night.
Y'all take care.